Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we are going to be featuring another trainers team. In this case it is Jamie Finn 1415 triple shadow team consisting of Shadow, Hitmonchan. This in case I used Thunder Punch instead of Ice Punch instead of Close Combat, just because I'm actually very low on charge CMs that I need it for the Shadow event. Shadow Skunk Tank and Shadow Drapion in the safe swap with a Sludge Bomb. So let's go ahead and get started. Overall, I went 15-10 with this team. It was a very fun team to use. This actually was a very good game here. Cobalion into Hitmonchan was a very good lead, and they switch out into Golisopod. Golisopod's kind of an awkward Pokemon to deal with in the sense that it's favorable for sure, and it's pretty glassy, so it'll faint to 2 crunches. But I also don't want to be. I also don't want to what's called get farmed down by the Cobalion, because 2 Sacred Swords does KO KO. So I choose not to shield here. If they go Liquidation, then I'll just farm down with Skunk Tank. They actually go X Scissor, and then they got the CMP. I decide to shield to preserve the switch, and throw the crunch, and then they get the farm down with Jelly, which was very nice play by them. And I go into Skunk Tank. They end up throwing on alignment, and they end up switching. I was a little bit slow on the switch. I thought about how to play this, and honestly, I probably should have shielded the second one and then landed the Thunder Punch onto. Yeah, I definitely should have shielded. The thing is, like, I should have shielded the second one here, not the first one. Doesn't really matter which one I'm going to shield. I should shield here, get the Thunder Punch off, because then I end up having to burn a shield on the Skunk Tank. I was really hoping I could farm down, but the Cobalion end up surviving, which was really awful for me, to be honest. And they correctly play this by no shielding the first one. And then there's not really, I even get the debuff here, but this Jellicent has way too much energy. So really, really nice play by the opponent, coming in, farming down with the Jellicent, which was really unfortunate for me. So nicely played by the opponent. And yeah, shield there. It's a very tricky situation because I'd be in farm down range, and then 2 Surfs would KO my Skunk Tank. So it's tricky there. It's very tricky there. Maybe I switch out faster to Hitmonchan, then would have been able to put it lower and potentially knocked it out before. Okay, so this is an okay matchup. It's pretty neutral. I try to catch the crunch onto Drapion. We actually simul swapped, and they switched to a Tapu Fini. Maybe they're trying to catch a move, catch a Ice Punch or something. I end up throwing the Sludge Bomb, which does a tremendous amount of damage, and I should be able to one shield and farm down the Tapu Fini. I'll be able to feint them right before they get to the Surf, and I'm gonna throw the crunch at this Skunk Tank. It doesn't have a move. It does have the crunch, but it doesn't have the flamethrower yet. And I get the defense fall. And they actually go for the crunch there, which I was a little bit surprised by. Maybe they have Sludge Bomb. Not quite sure. End up switching out, and then they come into Blastoise, and this is game over. I should be able to reach 3 Thunder Punches, and this is where Thunder Punch really came in clutch. And I'm gonna be able to land another Thunder Punch. We're just Thunder Punching this into Oblivion, and really not too much the opponent can do at this point in time. I'm going to shield. I could no shield, farm down, then crunch the Skunk Tank, but it doesn't really matter. There's virtually no lose con for me except for significant lag. And the Skunk Tank will survive the counter, but I'll be able to Poison Jab down. Actually, I think I need 2 Poison Jabs to KO, and I'm able to take it down. So looks like they were trying to bait out the Trev or bait out the Ghost type with Tapu Fini. to avoid the matchup with the Skunk Tank, and they were banking the Crunch later in case they needed to throw the Crunch at like a Jellicent, for example. Uh, so Haxorus, this is okay. Tricky matchup, and I decided to no shield, throw the Ice Punch. Breaking Swipe is a pretty weak move, but it obviously comes from a very hard hitting Haxorus. Haxorus is super glassy. I decided to go into Skunk Tank so I would have a little bit more fast move pressure. I'm not going to shield this Breaking Swipe again. And again, like, I got to shield something eventually, but try to avoid it. And they come into Pidgeot. And I throw the Crunch, no debuff, which is very unfortunate for me. And now they're gonna throw right before I make it to the Crunch. No point in me shielding this because it's almost for sure a Feather Dance. And unfortunately, it's gonna be a CMP tie to the Feather Dance with Drapion. So I throw the Crunch and I have to shield something, which is like super annoying here to be honest. And I throw the Crunch, and then I think I bank a Crunch and then switch. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to farm down. Maybe if I had one of the defense drops, I'm going to switch. And then they decide to come into Haxorus, which is an interesting play because they actually had Charizard here. I think they could have came out with quite a bit of energy and double blast burn my Drapion. And then now they're at the blast burn. My only realistic play is to call the bait. And I do get the bait call, and that worked out very nicely for me. Obviously, a little bit risky. If they were blast burn, I would just straight up lose there. But I had to make a call there. It's 50-50. There's not really any rhyme or reason to do one way or another. They were at 7. I don't know there. I think their win con there was just to go Charizard, farm it out right away. But they weren't sure. Maybe they weren't sure how much energy my Hitmonchan had, even though it was actually like pretty much dry because I just did like one counter on the Pidgeot. But it worked out fine for me. And we have Hitmonchan into Swampert. Swampert is actually so bad for this team because this is, I guess, where close combat would come in clutch because the close combat would one shot the Swampert. I know pretty much no one, sorry, but it would like by the time you get to it. I know when I CMP tie on this Ice Punch, I'm just hoping that they shield, because they actually just barely survive this Ice Punch. And I decided to no shield because I could survive. Oh, actually, no, I decided to shield. Yeah, I decided to shield here. And I switch out into Drapion, and they come into Shadow Charizard, which is totally disastrous for me. And yeah, this is gonna be a very nasty game here, unfortunately. And I make it to the Crunch, and they're just looking to double up. Very straightforward game plan for them. Honestly, I just stacked Shadow Hitmonchan. But I'm like, I can take the move on Skunk Tank and preserve the Hitmonchan. So I decided to play it this way, hoping that Hitmonchan would find a favorable matchup in the back. But I guess if this is their answer to, uh, Drapion, maybe it's better for me to sack the Hitmonchan. But yeah, this is maybe if I try to CMB tie on this second one, you'll see I overfarm. I count to 4, then throw 2, 3, 4, hoping that they would CMP tie, and then maybe I could poison jab down, and then crunch the. There's no way. There's no way. Even if I get the CMP tie there, it would just be too much health for me to deal with. So, very well played by my opponent. Yes, yeah, very. The Swampert is just too difficult for me to deal with this team. And then they have Scrafty. This is a very favorable lead for me. I'm doing super effective with the counters, but you can see Scrafty has such a huge stat product. They actually throw it 6. I was actually planning to catch the foul play if they decide to go foul play. Even though it's resisted, it would do more damage than the pup. And I throw right on CMP the next power up punch. And then I'm going to switch out right away into Drapion. And I'm gonna throw the crunch. I just gonna blind switch because I'm hoping that it's like the reason why they stayed in is because they have like a steel type in the back or something. I decided to shield, and they have the flamethrower. Throw another crunch at them. They actually end up shielding. I get double defense drops, which is actually really huge because now this crunch will KO. And I figured they have something really weak to it in the back, and I didn't want to like poison jab down, so I decided to shield. And then I'm in an extremely favorable situation. I throw the crunch. They come into Jellicent. I'm gonna throw the crunch right away. I'm gonna throw the crunch right away, and then I'm gonna look to switch into Hitmonchan. I have a little bit of energy on Hitmonchan, and I'm able to get the counter in and then throw the Thunder Punch, which is really nice for me. And they're going to have to throw, and I'm in a really favorable matchup in this situation. And I just come into my own Drapion. They have to dump energy, and then now I can just crunch the Jellicent. Actually, they undercharge that? I don't know there. And decide I land the crunch. I don't even show the third Pokemon though. Obviously, they can go back and watch this video or watch the stream to see what the third Pokemon was, and I'm able to win the game there. So I pull off a 3-2 in that set, which put me like right on the edge of veteran. So we're gonna have Hitmonchan into Granbull, and this one I like. Okay, I'm gonna check if it has if it's Snarl. Ends up being not Snarl, so it does quite a bit. So I throw the Sludge Bomb, and the second Sludge Bomb would come really close to KOing. So I let this go, and then I throw on CMP tie of the next cross shot, and I end up getting the shield, which was great for me. I decided to shield. I want shields down, so I'll be in a much better position. And I CMP tie again, which I think is a slight mistake on their side. I guess they were hoping that they're going to outpace me to the move. That worked out very nicely for me. I let this go. I'm going to counter down with Hitmonchan. And then I'm going to switch into Skuntank. And they have Dragon Breath Guillotine, which is definitely worse for me. Maybe I made a slight error. Maybe I should have... Oh, the thing is, like, I actually really wanted to KO the Granbull with Hitmonchan. So I make a risky play here because these Dragon Breaths do a tremendous amount of damage. And I'm just barely able to make it to the crunch. And we're going to be able to get Poison Jab through. And then this is Shadow on Shadow. So the Thunder Punch is almost certainly going to KO. And maybe I should have just thrown when I got to it. But I wanted to be sure. It's kind of a risky play on my side because maybe I don't survive that charm, but it looked like I was gonna survive, so that's the reason why I played it that way. But again, I probably could just thrown the Thunder Punch or Ice Punch and taken out the Granbull without risking that I wouldn't survive the charm. All right, Galvantula. I think I actually played this person earlier, so they actually have a guillotine in the back. And then I was actually so mad here. I frame dropped right when I get to the crunch. So I'm not able to get the crunch off beforehand, which is super devastating for me. And they switch out into to Obstagoon. And this puts me in a really bad position. This is actually an Obstructagoon. And it's a guillotine in the back. I played this person like at the very beginning of the stream. And I lost because I didn't throw the crunch. Anyways, they obstruct right away, which actually is better for me because then I get a bit more energy. And then I come into Skuntank. I get the extra poison jab. And I debate, because I know they have a guillotine in the back. I debate on when I'm going to throw. And thankfully, I get the debuff here. And they have cross poison. So they actually go for the cross poison here, which is a pretty interesting play. And last time they actually made it to the move. But because I think they took that extra poison sting instead of me throwing the crunch, it allowed me to actually feint them down. So and actually get the CMP tie, which was really huge for me. That was like definitely the winning play situation here, and I get the defense fall. Otherwise, the ice punch only does 43%. I could have banked it, and that probably would have won me the game as well, because I would have been not debuffed on the crunch. But thankfully, I ended up winning the game anyway. So that worked out pretty nicely for me. All right, let's speed up a little bit here. Greedent is a very good lead for me. All three of my Pokemon handle Greedent very well, and they come into Wheezing, and they actually throw the overheat at me right away, which I was very surprised, to be honest. I was very surprised that they dumped the overheat. But now their attack is dropped by 2 stages. I'm actually not worried about the Greedent at all. So they actually brutal swing bait me. Decide to no shield. First off, because I know it doesn't KO. And then I land the Sludge Bomb. And this one, I'm going to just throw the Sludge Bomb. And then I'm going to go back into Hitmonchan. And they come into Clefable. And I'm going to throw the Thunder Punch. And Fair Wind doesn't do very much damage to Hitmonchan. So you can see there's no way they're going to be able to fast move me down. And I get off another Thunder Punch. They shield the first one. Kind of makes sense. I guess they figured they had to shield one of them. Though they would survive, but their green is quite low after taking the Sludge Bomb from Shadow. They actually very nice undercharge, but this game's over. There's no way they're going to make it to 2 moves. And they actually decide to dump the Moonblast, maybe hoping for the attack drop, but I could always switch out as well. Or maybe they're hoping, like, it's Hail Mary, let's just throw this move. But I was in a very good spot. The crunch almost certainly would have put it really low, and I would have been able to poison jab down. So that was all three of the Pokemon are very strong against Greedent, so I wasn't too worried in that situation. Plus, I think the green was slightly underleveled. All right, another Shadow Swampert, which is again pretty brutal for me. So I decided to play this one slightly differently. I don't know, actually turned out any better for me. Yeah, I don't actually know if it actually turned out any better for me. I decide to no shield this because I can survive the Hydro, just barely. Yeah, they survive with such little. Maybe if I higher attack Hitmonchan, decide to switch out into. Um, oh yeah, this is Registeel, and then I think it ended up being Cresselia in the back. So I really desperately needed the debuff. Desperately needed the debuff. Uh, and then they throw right away the Zap Cannon. And then I unfortunately get debuffed, which is really disastrous for me. And then no debuff, which is very awful for me. And I decided to switch. I was really hoping that they would throw energy at me. They end up catching the move onto Cresselia, which is extremely bad for me. Yeah, extremely bad for me. And there's like no realistic way for me to win. And I got insult to injury, which you'll see very momentarily. Shield. I'm like, I got to make something happen. They throw the Moonblast, and I get the 10% attack fall from Cresselia, which is so awful for me. They end up shielding the Crunch. And I tried to go for the CMP tie on the next Moonblast, but it doesn't really matter here. And doesn't. Maybe I should definitely thrown the Crunch, hoping they would no shield or something. I don't know. There, it's like there's no way. There's no way. Honestly, the Cresselia would have been able to take me out anyways, because they would have been able to land 2 Moonblasts, which probably would have taken my Skunk Tank. I don't know. Yeah. I definitely should just thrown the crunch at the Reggie, hoping that they would no shield, but that was just Shadow Swampert just puts me in such a disadvantage. I either like down a shield, uh, lose a Pokemon. I don't know. It's just there's just no way. It's way too difficult. So Shadow Charizard, switch out into Drapion. I throw the crunch at the not Shadow Charizard, regular Charizard. Throw the crunch, and I can survive a blast burn, so I decide to no shield. But they're getting quite low. I throw the crunch at the Walrein, which I'm hoping for a defense drop. And I do get the defense drop. And a little bit of lag there. Yeah, and they get to the EQ. This is a smart play by them because they would survive the EQ. And then I'm very wary of what they're going to come in with. So I look at the top, and then I see that's actually a Trev, so I decide to throw the Ice Punch, and thankfully they actually decide to no shield this Ice Punch, thinking that they're gonna catch a Thunder Punch or something. And now their team is very low. And someone asked like, why did they stay in? Because they I don't think they were actually maybe they were switch lock, but like quite a few charge moves have been thrown, and I decided to throw the crunch because I completely forgot how much health the Charizard had. But this is game over, and I get the no debuff here, but there's realistically no real way for them to win because they're gonna just be way too low on health, and I'm able to poison jab down and take out the Charizard, finishing off a 4-1 set and hitting veteran with this team. Thank you very much, Jamie, for suggesting this team. This team was super fun, very it's like easy and not easy to run. Like Hitmonchan's pretty glassy. You have to like look up like how much damage everything does, and you'll be perfected. I'm not sure on the Thunder Punch or Ice Punch because Thunder Punch came in clutch for me so many times, but the close combat would have been much better against the Swampert, right? So it's kind of hard to say which would have been better there. But go ahead and check out the original video. I'll put that in the pin comment in the comment section below. And if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.